On today's episode, we'll talk about being followed by the paparazzi, hyper-focusing, Ozark, prisoners, Tiger Beat magazine, and of course, baking pies for celebrities. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operators and the art of operating. I am Dave Comides, your host, and I'm coming to you from Chicago, where I am actually presently on location shooting a TV show. I only mention it because if you hear the L going by in the background, that's what that is. I'm really excited. On the internet today, this thing that the kids seem to love that seems to be taking over the world, and interviewing Leah Lackey, who is a stand-in that I worked with on Ozark. And I'm actually really excited because I've never had a stand-in on the show before. And I think stand-ins, I've said it before many times if people have listened, is actually one of the harder jobs on set, ironically. And we're going to talk about that. Leah has a bunch of credits: Game Night, Ozark, Vacation, Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues, Prisoners, which I definitely want to hear about. The Change Up on Ozark, she stood in for the amazingly talented Laura Linney. And Leah, as I remember, I think, did you have a speaking part in the final season that we made a lot of fun of you for?
Oh, thanks, Dave. I really appreciate you bringing that up.
No, absolutely.
I did.
It was great. It was great.
I'm more of a behind the camera kind of person, so it was embarrassing, and it's hard in front of the people you work with to do that.
Yeah.
If it were a random group of people I didn't know, I would have been better at that, which ironically, I used to do improv a long time ago and didn't invite my family or friends because I did much better with random people around.
That's so bad. I remember that day very well because we were so very excited for you. Not that it's something that you wanted, but like it ends up giving you some residuals.
It was
fun.
cool.
It was cool, and also just it was a lot of fun to make fun of you that day. So that was enjoyable too. And I remember they brought a chair out for you, and I think you had a trailer even, and you were completely embarrassed the entire time. So it was great. Yeah,
it was awesome. And Ari, I found out later, was responsible for that chair and to get a chair.
I didn't know that.
With my name on it. Well, he didn't say anything to me.
Yeah, Ari Isler, who was the A camera operator at the time.
I'm sorry. Ari Isler. So I have a lot
of... Oh, that's so cool.
Credit to give him for conspiring with everybody. And it was a huge, huge surprise. Yeah. And you feel like somebody, like it was a big deal to me. And then to come home with my family for a while, I took the chair around. I'd sit outside, be like, excuse me, I'm going to sit outside. I took it to my neighbor's house and I was like, yes, this Leah Lackey chair, would you like to sit in it? It was on the set of Ozark. And then I'd go outside and watch my dogs in it. And then I took it to a lacrosse game and people were like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, but I'm Leah Lackey.
Yeah.
I played Cheryl for 2 seconds on Ozark, and there it is. So
that's fantastic.
I got so much mileage out of that chair.
Well, I do want to then really say thank you for gracing the podcast with your presence. I know you have a busy time, and I hope you're sitting in the chair right. Actually, I hope you don't because it'll creak. But anyway, so tell me, before I ask you about how you got into all this, tell people what a stand-in does.
So the best way I can describe it, and this would not be in the classical definition of a stand-in, is I'm a rough draft before the final copy. So I have roughly the same height, build, hair color, skin color, as the actor who I'm working for. So Laura Linney and I were roughly about the same in every way, except of course I'm not the actor and I don't have awards and I don't usually speak, but I was able to actually, I'm the person who is able to stand there to set up camera and lighting and sometimes microphone for the boom and sound. And so, and sometimes, I'll watch the actors and recreate a scene. Sometimes I'll enact it with lines, especially if the actor is a director, like Laura has. Or sometimes I'll do dialogue and the choreography, meaning I'm walking the same way around the room that they do, using the same hand. And sometimes all you want me to do is stand there. And that's absolutely fine and say nothing, which is a big part of the job. The one thing that I've learned, and I've seen this with other stand-ins, and I've talked to them before, is you are not the actor, and you don't need to do a full-out performance for camera because it's not going to be your big break. And there have been a few incidences where someone's like, "So how's this going to play? How's this scene going to play? Like, what's the?" And I said, you're setting up the camera and lighting and the microphone, and just be very non-committal to this unless you are asked to commit to it.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing because I know it gets on a lot of people's nerves when someone thinks this is going to be their time at that moment, and there's an unprofessional moment where they go all out. And the camera operator's like, yeah, I don't think Jason Bateman's going to play it that way, or Laura wouldn't play it that way. And they're, well, this is how I think it should play out. Well,
Yeah.
no, that's, a director and our camera.
Or more so, I appreciate what you're doing, but I don't need to see you cry while we're lighting.
Yeah.
I don't put yourself through this. It's not something we need. I love the fact that you're bringing it, but yeah, we don't need to see that. So yeah, no, totally understandable. So let me ask you a question about that, because I personally, and I've said it before, I think that great stand-ins, which you were one of them, and we had great stand-ins on Ozark, are so unbelievably important to an operator because, what you first of all, you had by then worked with Laura for what, 4 years, or that was your fourth year
Yes.
working with Laura?
Yes.
And so you kind of had a feeling for, like, how she sits down and how she stands up. And also you were one of the people who would really watch her and go, okay, she picks up the apple and then she puts down the glass or something like that. But the great stand-ins that I've worked with, and yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you. You were one of them. Are those people who will say to me, you know, she picked up the phone and she sat down, but I just want to show you her sitting down and picking up the phone as well, because I have a feeling that's going to happen.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really important to pay attention. It's really important to be on time.
Yep.
It's really important to pick up on small cues of everything that they're doing. And it's funny because I tend to be a bit ADD in the classic sense of the form, but man, I can hyperfocus when I need to hyperfocus. That's part of it. No one knows that.
100%.
So, and I always, and this may be over the top, but it's just the way my mind works. I always research the people I'm working with.
Really?
Because always. So I knew going into it, I was very intimidated by Laura, even though she's the most down to earth, amazing, wonderful human being. I knew all of her accomplishments, and I knew that she was a consummate professional. As down to earth as she is, consummate professional. She's outstanding at what she does.
Yep.
She's very committed to everything. I mean, she knows the script inside and out. She knows, in particular, the character Wendy on Ozark, how she's going to play it. And I want to make sure I pick up on all the nuances of Laura, and I also be a consummate professional. And I listen to what she's saying, whether she's talking to me directly or not. I listen to what she's saying. I don't interrupt. I don't distract what's going, make any noise or be a distraction to anybody. And I would ask questions sometimes if I needed clarification. But I always pay attention. I pay attention to who the director is going to be that day. Is this director, because we had different directors for different
Sure.
episodes. What have they done? How do they work? I pay attention to cinematographers. What have they
Wow.
done? How do they work? Just so I'm very interested in everything that goes on behind the scenes. So I want to know who I'm working with, how they work, how I should behave. Can I be a little more laid back, or are they a serious person who I need to, be a good soldier? I mean,
Like me. I mean, you
oh,
met me and we're like totally serious, quiet on the set, nothing, no
yeah,
fun,
we're not allowed
right?
to speak unless spoken to. I mean, everybody knows that about you,
Only
Dave.
speaking in Latin,
Yeah.
nothing other than Latin. The usual standard camera operator stuff. That's I didn't realize that. So before when your first day of Ozark was the first time you met Laura?
Yes. But here's the really, really cool and scary thing about the industry is I had met Jason Bateman, on the Change Up in 2011.
Okay.
So a long, long time ago. I had heard you talking to another Ari. You interviewed Ari.
Ari Robbins.
Yes.
Yep.
And he was saying how it's so crazy how we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
So I met Jason Bateman on the Change Up, and I interacted with him a little bit, and it was a very interesting conversation because he was just coming back in the limelight after not really being around for about 20 years.
Yep.
And he said, "Oh yeah, we talked about what he was working on and Arrested Development." I said, "Where did it go?" Because it was gone for a while. And he said, "Oh, this new company called Netflix or something may pick it up and we may do a series." He said, "I don't know, it's more of like a cult thing." And I've never forgotten that conversation because
Right.
of how big Netflix got. So then, and I met Jonathan McGarry, who was an assistant director on that movie. And then in Townsend, I met him.
Our first AD, eventual first
Yes,
AD. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And so down the road, I didn't intend on doing this. And then down
Yeah.
the road, Jonathan McGarry was working on something and remembered my name.
Yeah.
And I was shocked by that. And then Jason Bateman remembered my name. And whenever he had a project in Atlanta, I'd be brought up in a meeting. And
Wow.
that's how, and I know an executive producer is like, how does Jason Bateman know your first and last name?
So basically, what you're saying is there's a meeting in Atlanta for a show, and Jason Bateman is going, I want to find a project that we can bring Leah in on. What do we have?
No, but if it was someone like Laura Linney or
Yeah,
Leslie Mann,
someone who
or
you could fit the
yeah,
look and the
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, or Sharon Horgan was another one for game night. And
Yep.
I was so
That's incredible.
taken aback by that because
Why do
it
you think that?
wasn't,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you stayed with him?
you know, because I'm awesome. No, I'm just
I was just about to say this is going to be hard on you, but apparently it's not. Okay,
no,
moving
no,
on.
no, no.
No,
No,
no.
I think it's not. This is gonna sound really weird, and you know me in a different way, so I'm a little crazy pants, but I wouldn't act like that on a set.
Yeah.
All the excitement I have for the people I work with, and believe me, I consider it an honor and a privilege to be on any set. I am
Mm,
behind the scenes seeing some of the greatest minds in film work.
wow.
That I mean, I have so much gratitude for that. And so many people have been on these sets for years and been working actors and been cameramen and cinematographers. And, someone like Chris McGuire, who does Harry Potter, and
Hmm.
Roger Deakins, who's doing Skyfall. I'm watching them work. They're
Yeah.
saying my name, they're talking to me. I mean, what kind of opportunity is that?
Yeah.
And yes, we work 16-hour days and we don't really get paid much in my line of work. And maybe people aren't always treating us with respect.
Yeah.
But I am there and I'm able to watch it and I'm able to work with these people, and the most important thing is I'm able to learn. I cannot even tell you how valuable that's been to get paid almost less than minimum wage
Hmm.
to,
God.
to learn.
Oh,
No, I mean,
so wrong.
I'm teasing, but
I
like
know.
just to be in that kind of environment is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So I'm going to give you my thoughts on why you stuck with Jason Bateman. Um, and it's what makes you valuable as a stand-in. Um, you're a genuine person. You're an interesting person. Like you have all sorts of different, we've talked about, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to blow glass and like all this crazy stuff. I don't know if that's one of them, but like it would be constantly like, I'm in this boring times on set and people talk about it and you're like, oh yeah, I rebuilt the refrigerator in 1982 or whatever. But there's interesting, you have interesting stuff. And the other part of it actually, and I hope anybody listening doesn't take this the wrong way if this is their path. Um, you're not an actor who wants to be on set to become an actor. And I've had stand-ins come in before who are actors who are doing it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that they think that like this is how they're going to get seen, and so that it's almost like they're trying too hard a little bit. And I think that it comes off sometimes where it's like, no, this is my gig, and what I really like to do is, translate French poetry or something, or something like that. And I think that that's what it is. And so he probably like got to know you, and like I did, was like, oh, this is a genuinely interesting person who has, interesting views on things and really enjoys doing this, like you said, for the reasons of I get to watch all these people and whatever, not because like I'm getting my foot in the door because I have a short that I want him to do. You don't want anything from anybody
Yeah,
per
and
se.
I get mortified when I see people do that.
It's tough.
Because that's not why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm here to do a very specific job and try to
Yep.
be professional. And believe it or not, I kind of don't know why I was able to stick with Jason, because he didn't know me as well, because I was so nervous. Because you have to understand, when I was a kid, he's only a couple years older than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I saw him on Little House on the Prairie back in the
I
day.
remember it. I'm
I
the
saw
same
him
way.
on Silver Spoons, and guess what, everybody? Had a poster of him in my room.
I did not have a poster in my room.
He was
wanted
in my
to-
Tiger Beat back in the day. He was in my Teen Beat. I brought the Teen Beat to set. My parents
that's
had kept
great.
it, and he's in the back of it. And we're standing there at a midway party, and of course I show Chris Mundy and everybody I can show this picture.
Chris Mundy, the
Bateman.
showrunner on Ozark, yeah.
Yeah, who's a
That's
wonderful
fantastic.
human. And I'm passing this around, and so why he did this, I don't know. He goes to the back of it and he looks at all my favorite actors and actresses that I had listed in my 10-year-old handwriting. And my favorite actor at the time was Michael J. Fox. And my favorite actress was Justine Bateman from Family Ties.
Oh my gosh.
And he looks at it, he's like, freaking Fox. It's always Michael J. Fox, isn't it? And I said, oh, I don't know if I wrote that. He's like, oh yeah. And then there's Justine. Okay. All right. I just see where I stand. I'm in the back of the Teen Beat, and these are your favorite people.
I can completely see this. And as deadpan as he possibly can be.
Deadpan, and then the nodding of the head and the looking at me like, yeah, I see how this rolls, Lackey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I remember I just, because he was kind of a little, in my kid brain, this is my teen idol. He always played like this kind of a punk guy, and then he's so quick-witted and he's so deadpan. And so that's all I'm thinking inside my head, but I didn't act like that outside. I just listened and did what I was told. So, but I really appreciated that. And the fact that he always knew my first and last name. That
doesn't surprise me at all.
That was a big deal to me when someone said to me on a game night set, Jason Bateman asked for you to come in for Sharon Horgan. Like Jonathan McGarry told me that, and then a producer told me that. And I said, really? Yeah. And then a casting director called me and said, oh, they want you to come in for this person. And it was just, that's so cool. Like to remember the little people. And
but I also, having been, and I really mean this, having been privileged to be accepted into the Ozark family, I think the reason that group was so incredible was largely because he wants to be surrounded by good people who want to do the work and are good at the work. So when he finds someone, I think he's going to go, hey, bring this person in. And
he's a loyal person.
He is. There's no question about it.
And then you also, as a stand-in, you kind of have to be like the FBI or the CIA, because you can't tell people what you're doing. You can't tell them about the job. You can't tell them about the show. I've been offered money to tell what's going to happen. I've
Really?
been
You mean
at
like tabloids and whatnot calling you?
just or like Atlanta Journal or a radio station. Hey, so
Wow.
come on, you can give us a little tidbit. I can't, which makes me the most boring person to talk to in the world about working on a
Wow.
set because I can't tell them anything.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I was followed once by a paparazzi because I was dressed identical to Applegate and had my hair like her, and I had a little taste of how that's a really tough
No,
life.
no, thank you. Yeah,
No.
yeah,
And so it's just really interesting. And then, oh, just tell us a little something about her that maybe no one would know. No.
yeah,
Because maybe an actor will confide something in me because something's going on or it's a bad day or whatever. I am never going to break that kind of trust. That's
yeah.
just who I am. I'm also, a recovering Catholic, so I would feel guilty if I ever broke that trust. So it's just, I think trust is a really huge thing. So if someone gives that to me, I'm going to hold that close to my heart. It's
Yeah,
important.
no, and that's again, that's why you're asked back. So let me ask you a question. There are scenes where, there are intimate scenes. There are scenes where actually might even be harder, where you're just standing face to face with someone. Where as a stand-in, you have to stand there for 5, 10, 15 minutes while people come and put their hands around you and put lights on you and microphones over you and this and that and the other,
Hmm.
and you just have to stare at each other from 2 inches away, which even even if you have an emotional relationship with someone gets to be awkward after a while. How do you do that?
I don't even do that with my husband. Like we would,
Exactly.
it would
Who
just be
nobody does
weird.
that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
On our wedding day, we're doing it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a lot of staring into
Exactly.
each other's eyes.
S- s-
Um, there are two really important things. One, I stare at eyebrows.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
Hmm.
because sometimes it's hard to do that. It gets a little embarrassing and a little
Yep.
much. We'll try to, within reason, I'll make people laugh and make little side comments under my breath. But the second most important thing, Tic Tacs, Altoids, gum, my friends.
I never would have thought about that.
As a stand-in,
Yep.
you've got to, if I say, hey, would you like a mint? And someone
Take it.
says, oh, no, thank you. I'm like, oh, it's not a mint. It's a hint, bro. Like, so, and I don't mean that in a mean way.
No, it's
I
life.
have been so cognizant of my dental hygiene for the past 12 years. I can't even tell you because
See, this is a side benefit of being a stand-in. I guess your teeth improve.
don't eat a burrito with tons of onions and then in a 15-minute break and then come
Yep.
back and knowingly we're going to be like laying in bed next to each other or staring at each other because it does, even if you don't talk, it's there. It's a
Yeah.
presence between you. So
Nope.
it's very,
Yep.
very important. So anyway,
Now, and you mentioned, which we should explain. So Laura Linney, her directorial debut was on Ozark. I want to say it was the second to last episode or third last.
yeah.
Anyway, it was one of the later episodes, and
Mhm.
and she, as everybody expected, she knocked it out of the park. But even for what I
Yes.
think people expected, it was even better. And she, like you said, she's just so prepared and the consummate professional and just so incredible. It sort of was. Wasn't surprising, but it was surprising that it was so amazing.
She's
But
actually a brilliant person too. Like
she
she's
she
just
is.
incredibly intelligent,
I had
which
some just fantastic side conversations about, like, because I think, as I remember, her father was a big theater director. So we
mhm,
talked all about the theater. I mean,
mhm,
she just, she,
mhm.
she knows a tremendous amount and such a lovely person. But you mentioned, so when she was directing, you would actually, she'd go in and rehearse a scene to, show everybody what we're
Mhm,
doing them, but
mhm,
then you would actually do some of the rehearsals doing
mhm,
her lines.
mhm.
And I'm wondering, how does that feel with someone like Laura Linney, who's so good at what she does, to try to go, or do you just go, I'm not even gonna, like, I'm just gonna get the words out and
You know, I think a huge compliment from a couple people on set was that they would accidentally call me Laura or say, you've morphed into her. It's really bizarre. Walker Markey said that to me. And he said, you were walking. And I was like, Laura, Laura, Laura. And I turned around. He's like,
oh, from
oh,
behind. Oh,
Leah.
that's so funny.
Oh. And So I really tried to just imitate her, but not be her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do the best job I could at copying how she moved and how she would say things, but I knew there was no way I could be her in
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
way,
Yeah. Yeah.
shape, or
Yeah.
form. But I had to be, it's almost like how Saturday Night Live, they do skits that are really funny, imitating people. Well, I was
Sure.
doing a more serious skit where I'm imitating someone, but could never, ever measure up to how great she is. And that's the
Uh-huh.
thing is, I'm not saying she's great to blow smoke or anything else, but in every way she's really great.
She is.
Being
No,
so
she's a wonderful
intelligent,
person.
knowing the
Yeah.
business, being so prepared, knowing the script, knowing each character and how they're going to play out. And that's it. I didn't see that a lot. Like that was incredible to watch. And then the
Yeah.
Broadway background, which brings a whole nother level. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I just felt like I was learning. It was a master class for me. I guess that's what I should say.
Yeah. That's
Um,
amazing. So now we've touched on actors that you like. Have you stood in for actors who you don't appreciate as people, and you don't have to say any names? Or not stood in for, but been in the same ensemble group or whatever for tough actors.
I can tell you there's only one
Okay.
who was tough. My very first experience, really. And as long as you did your job and you kept your head down and you worked and you were
Yep.
professional, everything was fine. And
Okay.
that's what I did. I washed my P's and Q's.
Yep.
And it's funny because later on they circled back and I ended up working for them one more time and everything was fine. And then the other thing I've figured out is cookies, besides relationship management, making cookies and bringing them on set for people really helps. And I
So
think they kept me on these sets because I baked cookies.
I
So
actually do remember. I remember the cookies, and they were deadly. Now I feel so used. I have to be perfectly honest. Wow. But truthfully, I've done the same thing. Actually, I've baked and brought it in for the guys because after a tough week or whatever, it is funny how far that goes because people are like, we should really cut her loose, but the cookies. What are we going to do about the
yes,
cookies? Like, all right, we'll give her
yes.
another week.
And I made a pie. I made pies too. And Robin Wright was the biggest
I
pie
remember that.
situation.
Yes, yes, I
The
do
Robin
remember
Wright
that.
apple pie. And I was so stressed out. I didn't want to poison anybody. I bought all new stuff, organic stuff. I was just like, this is Robin Wright. Cause she's great too. Great.
She was wonderful. Did she request an apple pie? Is that what you're saying?
It was actually Townie's
Uh,
fault
our
because
first AD. Yeah.
yes, we had a
Yeah.
conversation. It was Robin Townie, and we were talking. And she said, "God, I love fall, and I love the taste of apple pie." Oh, and Townie looked at me and he said, "Leah can bake it, and she bakes cookies, and she takes her
Oh
kids
my
to school." And he went in this big thing, and I said, "Okay, yeah." And she said,
Yeah.
"You can make an apple pie like with a little crumble." And just like what I've done the past 12 years, you fake it till you make it, baby. So I was like,
Yep.
sure, I can do.
Yeah.
Never made an apple pie in my life. I've made all
Oh.
kinds of other pies. So I make up my own recipes too. So I don't really follow recipes. So I had to experiment in my kitchen. I didn't sleep that night. The apple pie weighed like 20 pounds on a scale because I put like 20 different kinds of apples. And I had a mic drop moment that was insane. So I brought the pies in. I'm like, guys, taste it. I want to make sure you don't keel over. I had the crafty guys taste it. They tried it. They're like, Leah, I'm telling you, this is amazing. I said, okay. So later on, she got a piece of pie and she came in and we're waiting in between shots. And she walked in, she's like, and she hugs me. There's no words. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, the president of the United States just hugged me because I'm thinking of, her house of cards
Sure.
and like
Sure.
she's
Yeah.
amazing.
See,
And
I would have
then,
thought Princess Buttercup just hugged me, but that's just me.
I just was thinking of her because I was nervous being around her
Yeah.
because of that role.
Yeah.
And then she said, that was the best tasting, most wonderful, most
That's so
crumbly pie.
great.
I've been to LA. I've been to Paris. It was like a tart. It was like a pie. It was like nothing I've had. Open a bakery by my house, mic
Oh,
drop, walked away.
that's great.
What?
That's great. Yeah,
So,
that's
so
great.
food's a very real
Food,
thing to
I don't
anybody out there.
disagree. I do not disagree. This is fascinating, and we got ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
How did you
sorry.
get into? How did no? It's only because it's good. How did? By the way, I'm going to ask you to write up the recipe for the pie to put on the website. So you better figure it out. We'll call it Robin Wright's apple pie.
Yes.
And that way I'll get her to visit the
Oh,
website.
that'd be so cool.
So how'd you get into this? Like, what's your story? I mean, did you go to like stand-in college or something like that?
No. So, my undergrad was in writing and literature. So I've always been a writer. My graduate degree was in education. I intended to be a high school English teacher. And then I ended up discovering technical writing, which is such an exciting field because you're translating tax technology software, financial applications, writing instructions.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
if you want to be really excited, we can get
Yeah.
into an interview about that next,
I
about
think
how
that's
to
a
do
whole
your
nother
taxes.
podcast for another time. That
So,
sounds like the most horrifyingly, I can't think of many things that would be worse than that for me.
well, but you
Um,
you also learn how to keep everything simple.
yeah.
Nothing needs to be with jargon and huge language and flowery. Just keep it simple and everyone can do their job right.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I was a corporate trainer and technical writer for years, developing courseware for financial applications.
I
And
don't even know
then
what you just said, but that sounds
uh,
okay. I don't understand that on any level, but sure. Good. Yeah.
and then I ended up, I really miss the creative side of, I write crazy poems and rhymes and I miss doing some of that stuff. And so the first time I experienced excitement was I wrote this 21-day long poem to Oprah about,
21-day long?
it was 21 days of me writing about a poem. It was a continual poem about my daily life as a stay-at-home mom, because then I chose to be a stay-at-home mom. And I also taught, preschool, and I'm a Sally Struthers infomercial because I worked at a vet clinic. I've done all kinds of jobs.
By the way, most people are not going to get that, but I totally get
Yeah.
it, and I love that you referenced that. Go ahead. I'll see if I can put that on the podcast page if I can find it.
Because
Yeah.
I love to learn and I love so many things. So I like doing different jobs. And a friend just said, I had, or I wrote, well, let me circle back to Oprah. So I wrote this poem to get Oprah's attention
Wait, how
because
long was a 21-day poem?
it was about 30 pages long. It was like a continual diary that rhymed. And
Wow.
yeah, it was funny, but it's kind of cool because I have a really funny poem about the early days of being a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
So the whole reason I wrote this poem was to get her attention so that I could take my 91-year-old friend Millie to the Oprah show. Millie's dream, she lived down the street from Harpo in Chicago, and her biggest dream was to go to Oprah. And she was 91, so I had to take drastic measures and
Yeah,
get this done.
not a lot of time. Yeah.
Oprah, and I took a category that she had on her website, and I just kept writing this poem every day. And then I was called by the producers, and they said, this isn't appropriate for the show, but we need to meet you. Oprah wants to meet you after reading this whole poem.
Oh my God.
And I said, no way. Oh my God. I was freaking out and excited. And I loved Oprah so much at the time that people at the vet clinic would make fun of me. And I'd be in a surgery next to one of the vets and they'd say, Leah, Oprah's online too. Like it was just, they were being silly because I was
Wait,
like,
wait, back up. What do you mean you'd be in a surgery? You worked at a vet clinic?
I helped out. I kept showing up at the vet clinic until they hired me to like clean cages and sit in
Oh my
on a
God.
surgery. And yeah, I love animals. So,
Yeah.
I just thought it would be interesting. And so I kept going every day. And then the head vet was like, we think we need to pay you, but like sit in on a surgery and see how you like it. And it was fine.
Yeah.
So,
Until Oprah called and you had to go.
yeah. I paid for that too. So
Yeah.
anyway, and so we went to the producers called, they said, come on up to Chicago. We'll get you tickets to any show you want to go to. So of course, everyone's telling me, you got to do the favorite things. You got to blah, blah. Well, that was like 8 months away. And I said, no.
Wait, any show meaning like a Broadway type show? You're saying
No,
like a play?
I'm sorry,
No.
any Oprah show you'd like to come to.
She had different shows?
She had different shows and different topics. Like, her talk show. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, now I understand. You mean here's the upcoming guests or whatever it is.
Yeah, and maybe you can fix this and cut all the nonsense out because I'm stream of consciousness.
It's great. No, it's fantastic. Okay, so they said, here's a bunch of upcoming shows. What do you want to come to?
Yeah,
yes,
come to any show you want to. Yeah. So, of course, my family's like, oh, favorite things. You got to get stuff, this and that. And I said, no, Millie is 91. We're going now in March. To Chicago. Yeah. I had no idea what I was in for. Yep. So then they said, okay, we'll give you 4 tickets. And they give everyone tickets, but this was kind of special because we could be in the front row and it was really, really neat. So then I had to call them back and ask for a 5th ticket because I needed to take my mother-in-law, both my sisters-in-law. I couldn't leave them out, and Millie. So, because everyone would be upset with me. Yeah. And my mom, isn't big on airplanes. So she's like, yeah, take your mother-in-law and your sisters-in-law, just go and have fun. Wow. So Millie at the time, ironically, Millie also has lupus. I have lupus. Millie had lupus. And she said, the doctors are making me take a damn wheelchair to Oprah. I have to sit in a wheelchair. I don't want to do it. I said, Millie, if that wheelchair could get us better seats, I hate to say it, but if you don't sit in the wheelchair, I'm sitting in the wheelchair, Millie, and you're pushing me. Yeah. But by that time, they said, are you, I introduced myself. And they said, oh, we've been waiting for you. And I said, this is Millie, because that was my focus. And then we sat in the front row, which was super, super cool because Millie had this chair. Yeah. And then when we had cut to commercial break, we went through the show and I would try to get Oprah's attention for Millie. And I said, Millie, Oprah, this woman, Millie, has something to say to you. With that, Millie stands up out of her chair like she's healed. It was insane. And she said, Oprah, women of any age admire you. We respect you. What you have done for African-American women in your community, as well as women everywhere, is uncomparable. Well, Oprah starts crying. The audience starts crying because Millie says this whole profound thing. Wow. And then they cut to, and we're back, and Oprah's like dabbing her face, and she's back doing her talk show. And the next commercial break, she walked up and she said, how would you like my personal photographer to take a picture of me and Millie? Oh my gosh. I said, that is the whole reason I love you, but that would be the best. And that's she did incredible. That. She sent the picture to Millie 2 days later. You wouldn't think someone that big would do that. Yeah. And Millie walked around with that picture, and she died less than a year later. Oh my gosh. It was just, so that's kind of the start of my crazy was Oprah. Then I ended up on another show writing a crazy poem, which was Nate Berkus. He was her designer. So he redid a room in my house because it was one of the ugliest rooms in America. Okay. Then this is like a reality show. It was a design show. Okay, design show. And he had a talk show / design show. Then I ended up on another show. Jeff Probst had a show for a little while, not Survivor, a different show. And I wrote another poem about the soap opera I was obsessed with. And I ended up going to the soap opera set and meeting the whole cast and talking to them and having lunch. And so these poems, I was like, I've got to do something other than this stuff with these poems. And I haven't had a chance to yet. So it kind of started from there. And then someone said, why don't you come be an extra on this show and see what it's about? It was called like Road Trip. I was like, okay, I'll go be like a college student. I was like, oh, I don't think this is for me. Like, it was just, it just wasn't for me, but it was really fun to see what happens behind the scenes. And then I went to a Lifetime set and someone said, can you stand in for this actress? And I had no idea what that meant. And I just elbowed someone. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? They're like, just do what they do. Don't worry about it. And then it evolved from there where I just started standing in, and I kind of went home and researched the job. And then I did the one film where I really got started doing it, some stand-ins had been let go for, not being as professional all the time. And they brought me onto this show, and I just, head down, did my job, what I was supposed to do. And then it evolved from there to where it wasn't really casting asking me, it was the actresses asking me, which was really, really cool. Like
Yep.
developing a reputation. So, and that's kind of how it began. So it was an accident. And then I figured out how much I always loved movies. Always. I had the cardboard cutouts in my room I'd buy from the video store. I had movie posters, Ferris Bueller, Project X, Back to the Future, Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3. I mean, I was really into it.
But
And
no Jason Bateman posters,
no,
right?
no, but I had
No.
Tiger and Teen Beat. Like they
I
were
know,
a
but you
bigger
didn't have his
deal.
posters on the wall. I just, in case he listens to this, I just want to make that point. And
No.
anyway, so okay,
No, I
yeah.
didn't step into Psycho that hard. But I thought I always loved it. And I was the nerd who would quote movies. My cousins and I would quote movies that we loved. I'd watch them 50 times. I was really into dancing movies, like break dancing. I did a little of that back in the day, had my
Sure.
cardboard and my
Why wouldn't you?
boombox.
Yeah.
So that's why I have such gratitude for being in this situation, because holy cow, I can see how complicated, how detailed, how hard it is to just shoot one scene, to
Yeah.
create a film. And it never gets old for me. Everyone says, oh, it's got to get old. You know what's going to happen in the show. It never gets old.
Yeah.
I love it that much.
That's great. That's great.
So-
Look, it never gets old for me because you're constantly problem solving, but I'm amazed to hear, because you guys are sort of doing this. I mean, you're not doing the same thing. Every scene's different, but you're still doing the same conceptual thing over and over.
But nothing is shot the same way.
No,
And one
no,
camera
absolutely.
operator is not going to shoot it the way someone else does.
Well, like you said, and you're interested. I mean, you were always asking questions when it was appropriate and whatever. You were interested in learning, which is why I sort of was like, oh, she's very interesting. Although I didn't know the whole Oprah Winfrey 31-day poem thing. I would have liked to have known that. But it's good you saved some stuff. That's unbelievable. What a wild story. Question for you, because this is sort of a podcast about operators among other things.
Yes.
When you think of good operators that you work for and operators that you enjoy working for, what do they bring to the table? How do they, or by the way, the reverse, if you've worked with operators that you didn't enjoy working for, what was it that was problematic? Is it just personality, or is there more to it? Or
I think one thing that's very, very important mutually is just respect. Sometimes, a stand-in is not considered even really part of the crew. We're the plebes, if we're in medieval times, and we just do what we're told. And I think it's a really tough thing, because we aren't, the actors and the main people, and we aren't doing some of the harder jobs that the crew does, but we are there to be a part of a crew and to do a job. And I think, my dad always taught me that when you are working in any job, you respect everybody above you, respect everybody below you. A sweeper on a line in a glass plant is just as important as someone watching the glass bottles, is just as important as management, is just as important as your unions, and managing their expectations and trying to work together. His biggest thing was working together works. Ozark was a team, so it was much more of a team environment, so you didn't necessarily feel that way. But in movies, movies sometimes are like 90 days, let's say. Sometimes you don't get that respect. It's like second team. Maybe I know your name. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't care. Who are you? Okay, stand there. I don't care if you stand in for this person. Just stand there and do this because the other person has wandered off. I would never treat people like that.
Hmm.
The name thing is really important to me with camera
Yeah.
operators because you're working in a very you're working very closely with them, and I want to set you up for success. And I want you to tell me, here are my expectations. I do want you to say some of the dialogue. I do want you to read the lines. I do want you to walk. I want you to hit your mark. And sometimes you need to be very specific because someone may be nervous or maybe it may be their first time doing it and they haven't been down that road before. And I think if someone is annoyed with them or angry because they make a mistake, it's going to set the tone for the rest of the time that they're there because they're going to be so nervous they're going to make more mistakes.
Hmm.
So I just think having a mutual respect and both communicating appropriately about what you want, that means I'm going to anticipate how you work, what you want in the future, and that's going to save time and money for everybody. If we're working together in the beginning, I'm going to automatically know what you expect from me.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
it sounds like the simple thing right off the bat is actually learn learn the stand-ins names,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
seems simplistic, but it's really a huge thing. And as you know me, I mean, Ozark was a little different because there were really only four stand-ins, so it was easier for me. So
Yeah.
after about 2 months, I finally learned everybody's name because I'm terrible with names. But when people keep changing, I have a huge problem because I can't remember people. I can't remember anybody's name.
Well, but
But you
you
try.
also, in all fairness, you said that in the beginning,
I
and
always do.
I honestly, I don't care if I'm called, especially in Ozark, Leah, Laura, or Wendy. Give
Yeah.
me one of those names and stick with it, and I'm good with it. I'll answer to anything. Or
Yep.
Lackey, I was called that a lot.
Yep.
And that's fine with me. It's just, if I'm working on a series that long with some of the same people, there's a little bit of you that gets a little hurt when someone doesn't know your name and they've seen you for several years.
Yep. Yep. That's wrong.
So, that's big. As far as we were talking about working with camera operators, I wrote some notes on this. Like Laura,
Okay.
I'm a prepared person.
Good. Hit
Um,
me with them.
you know, be
This
perfect.
is where you tell me all the things that you're pissed off at me about that
No,
you never
no,
would say.
no. But
I'm kidding.
be professional and you get professional back. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a very simple thing. um an optimistic attitude. And I know that's really hard sometimes when
Hmm.
things are really tough, but you know as I said, a lot falls on your shoulders as a camera operator because you have an actor that may have an opinion, you have a director of photography that may have opinion, a producer, an actor who's also the director, and you also have a vision because you've done it for a really long time, and you're the person who's ultimately responsible for what the audience sees. But
Hmm.
remember that even though I may be a second teamer, I want to make your job easier too.
Yeah.
So I want to do what you want, and I need to watch and listen, but I also, as I said before, want to know what your expectations are going into it.
Yep.
And then tolerance is a big thing. And you're a very tolerant person. I mean, we've been doing this interview for a long time and you've put up with me, but when I see camera operators, especially ones who are really good, Ari Isler or you or Chris McGuire, or just I've worked with so many that are
Hmm.
excellent. That camera is your appendage.
Hmm.
Now, while it's your appendage and you know the ins and outs of it, it can be intimidating to someone who's standing behind that lens.
Oh, isn't that interesting? So I never would have thought of that.
So we may make mistakes or go the wrong way. So
Yeah.
you say camera left and we're supposed to go right and we go left
Yep.
because a lens is looking. I am very intimidated by being on camera, and a lens is
Hmm.
looking at me, and that is part of who you are, but it's not part of who I am.
Yeah.
So if I make a mistake, I need permission to get it wrong and then say, it's fine. You went the wrong way. Don't let it happen again. Time is
Yeah.
money, money is time. But just in a nice way, communicate that with me because there's no reason to scream. No one's gotten a cancer diagnosis. No one's going to die if I go camera left when you said
Yep.
camera instead of going right.
Yep.
And that's that's a really big thing. And
Yeah.
the guys who are really have quiet confidence in their job and they're humble and they're good at it, there's no reason for them to do that. But the I feel like some of the camera operators I've worked with who are not as confident, they use a stand-in to kind of throw their weight around a little bit. Like, "You need to
Mm.
do this, or you shouldn't have made that mistake," or "How long have you been doing this?"
Oh,
And
geez.
so and that happens, and you have to have a super thick skin, like, you really do. But, I've seen some people just get defeated over making a mistake. And also, what does that teach other people? And what does that teach young people? You can never make a mistake or it's the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that so just being tolerant's important, and just not trying not to be negative when things can be, things are dragging on and on. You've got to do a shot like 50 times, and no one wants to be in it there anymore, and they're exhausted, and it's raining and you have a lens covered in plastic. And just kind of to keep in mind, even if you've done this job forever and ever and ever, it's a really cool job. And you
Yeah.
have a lot of people, who millions of people watching a product that you created. So, you know what? I appreciate that. I may not have been in front of the camera, but holy hell, I was a part of the chain link that created Ozark.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
even my life? And
I
I
think it's great. It's great that you mentioned that, because I think we do take it for granted. It becomes a little bit of a factory sometimes, and you lose track of how cool it is.
It's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
in so many, if my friends ask me about it, and they're just like, "What was this like? What was that like?" And I said, "Well, it's not a red carpet, and I'm not accepting awards, and I'm not wearing a sweet sequin dress. I'm
Yeah.
often wearing black or sweatpants or a color that's like orange that doesn't even go with me, but I have to because the character wears it. And I'm in rain, I'm in sleet, I'm in snow. I'm like a postal worker without the pay.
Yeah.
But like, holy cow, I was part of creating something. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I have a huge amount of enthusiasm, respect, and admiration for every single person who is part of that creation. So,
That's
and for
cool.
the crafty people who are feeding me all day, like,
Yeah.
which I gained 20 pounds on Ozark, thank you. It's also not a healthy diet because our craft services and, are outstanding. And then Mario's catering is outstanding. And, it's huge. And
Yeah.
I think the other side of it is just in Ozark in particular, everyone had a general respect for each other, and we were a team when we worked. We worked as a well-oiled machine. It was the first time I had ever been on a show where I felt, wow, I feel like I'm important here. I feel like I know I'm below the line. That's a
Yeah.
phrase I've heard often, but I didn't feel below the line. I felt like I was treated like everybody else.
Hmm.
And also you never know who you're talking to. I heard Ari Robbins talking about how interconnected all of us are, and how relationship management is so important. And someone that you meet doing some little indie film may be a huge director one day, but he remembered you from 20 years ago because of how you made him feel and how he made you feel.
Yep.
And even though in your case you may not remember their name, and you need your
That's for
wife's
sure.
help,
Thank you.
you remember how well, my husband's the same way. So, but
Yeah.
you remember how that person made you feel, and you will see those people over and over and over and over again. It's a
Yeah.
small, I could not believe how many people I've worked with, from movies to Ozark, and even like a Lifetime thing to, an Emmy winning thing. It's incredible to me how you keep circling back to the same people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't
That's
know.
that's great, and I think Ozark was a great example of that, because there was respect for everyone, and everyone was doing their job. Everybody was on the top level, and I think a lot of that, quite frankly, comes from JB and Chris
Oh
Mundy
yeah.
and all those guys. I mean, granted, I came to the party late, but I could instantly I could instantly recognize that. And it was clear that, again, it would have surprised me if you didn't have that experience there, because I think that's one of the things that made the show so great, even though it's not on camera, but I think it's why things work so well on camera,
Well, and it seemed like you were always there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
didn't seem like you just came in late in the game. It just seemed like you were always there.
Oh, well, that's kind
And then when you and I mean that it sounds terrible, like you were always just a fixture. I mean,
No, but it's funny because I showed up there and I was like, oh, I get these people. Like I kind of fit in with them. They were just good people, and I knew some of them before, obviously. But that was a great experience, no question. It's interesting to hear you sort of your side of it, because the thing is, I mean, I've said it in this interview and I've said it before. I think that good stand-ins are, I mean, they're one of the most important parts of being a good operator, because if you have stand-ins who don't remember what the actors did, or don't want to do what the actors did, or aren't showing up, or this or that or the other, you can't do your job.
And you can't be
And
late. Like, keep in
yep.
mind, when and Christina Webling, who stood in for Ruth, or Julia Garner, and I talked about this a lot. We're in Atlanta. You have to account for traffic. You have to account for accidents. You have
Yep.
to account for where is crew parking in relation to set, and how long is it going to take me to get there?
Yep.
20 minutes early is 20 minutes late. I mean, be there, because a lot of times everyone will be there and they'll say, hey, can we just run through what we're doing today real quick before the actors get here?
Yeah.
And one of the other things I admired about Jason was that his fingers were in everything. And I remember asking him if he ever slept, because he would be directing, he would be acting, he would say, I'm going to see how everyone plays it today. But sometimes he would be there early with his bowl
Yep.
of oatmeal and nuts and seeds and whatever, and be right there with everybody else trying to see how the shots would work out. And he
Yeah.
worked weekends too, because I had the privilege of going with he and Townie to one of our sets on Ozark and Alatoona, and I went on a Saturday just to walk through how the last scenes with Julia Garner were going to play out. And I was that's really behind the scenes, because there's 5 people there.
Yeah.
So to see that was really an experience. So again, I just really appreciate all of it. And I have stories that I will have for the rest of my life that I can share with my family. Now that,
Oh, yeah.
all the secrets are out about all these shows, it's really, really, really cool. Like I'm so lucky, and I'll watch TV only with my family. I do this. I don't do this with anyone else, because it would be ridiculous. But I'll see like Hugh Jackman. I was like, yeah, he bought me a lottery ticket. Or Hugh Jackman also ate my pie when he was working on. I made him a couple of different pies, and we stood on the side of a building and ate it, hiding from his trainer, because the trainer was there for Wolverine. And he had been working out. And so I had been talking about it, and he overheard me. And he said, sweet a savory. Like he was, and he was so nice. But like, I'll sit with my family and I'll see someone on TV, or I'll wait for the credits. And I was like, ooh, Richard Cartwright, still photographer. I've been to his house before. He's been here for dinner. Bam. Like I'll just get so worked up.
That's great.
And John and Kara are like, yeah, Mom, we know.
Yeah.
We know you were on Anchorman, and you felt like you were in Comedy Central, because Will Ferrell was amazing and Paul Rudd was amazing. And I said, I'm not saying it like that. It's just insane what a small world it is.
There's no question about it.
Insane.
Yeah. So I want to hear, you were telling me before, which I just thought was so hilarious, and great, how amazing it was to be on Prisoners and watch Roger Deakins work.
And he's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
So I was positive Polly every day. I would go in and say, hi, Roger.
Who were you standing in for? Like one of the moms or something?
Maria Bello.
Oh, Maria Bello. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so it was just, and I remember Dylan Minnette was in that, and he ended up doing 13 Reasons Why and doing a fantastic job. And then Hugh Jackman was in that. I was just like, and what's crazy is a few days before that, I saw him in an interview on 2020, and I looked at my husband, Rick, and I said, I want to work with him someday, Rick. And 2 days later, I got the call for Prisoners.
Wow. Oh my gosh. There
So
you go.
it was just like,
Well,
what are you talking about? Because he just seemed really like a good human. So, and I behaved until I didn't have to. Like, until he interacted,
Sure,
it was
sure.
nice.
Yeah.
But so, and then I remember looking up, Roger Deakins was very specific in what he wanted, and he worked with the same team quite a bit because they all knew him. They're like, oh, he's really serious. No Country for Old Men, and you're talking about Shawshank, and so I went home after I heard his name and I looked up what he did. And I was just like, and then of course I get nervous again. And I was just like, oh God, this is Roger Deakins. He's a big deal. He was nominated for 1 million Oscars, like 11 or 12 at the time.
Yep.
And I didn't understand why he hadn't won at that time because he was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so every day, I'd walk in and he would talk to me and knew my name. And I was just like, in my head, there's always a dialogue in my head or theme music at all times. So in my head, I'm thinking, Roger Deakins just said my name. He's done Skyfall. He's done all of these unbelievable films.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of how beautiful his cinematography is, like just the shots. And then he often got behind the camera if it wasn't exactly what he envisioned. And he'd talk to his camera operator and say, this is what I want. And so every day I just wanted to earn his respect because in my mind, he was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, hi, Roger, how are you today? He's like, I'm fine. Like he was just very cranky. And then at the end of the show, and I brought some cookies in and he would just like take it and do his thing. And he would always sit by himself at when we'd eat lunches or whatever and read the paper.
He's a quiet guy.
And he is a quiet guy. And so I left him a note. I wrote him a thank you for, working with him and how respectful he was. And I appreciated it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted him to know, even if he's gotten all these Oscar nominations and everything else, from a layperson's perspective, he really is a genius. And so I just said it. Like unfortunately, I've lost a lot of people in my life. So I'm a big believer in telling people what you think about them.
When you have the time. Yeah.
When you have you make the time. You make the time. You don't save things for special occasions. You make the time to tell people what you think.
Yeah.
And so I told him he was a genius, and I really appreciated being able to work with someone like that. And I gave him a piece of pie. It's my way. It's just the
shameless.
way.
It's just
it
shameless.
is. I am a terrible person. I admit it. I use food.
So great.
And that's where I get my affirmations. If people don't respect a stand-in, they respect the hell out of my cooking. So I'm good.
There you go.
So,
good.
And then I walked away. He came up to me. He put his paper down. He looked back and then he looked down again. He went and he walked over. And he gave me a really big hug and he said, thank you for what you said. And I said, well,
sweet.
I don't say anything I don't mean. Roger Deakins is not known as sweet, like
actually, the thing is, he's a good person. He's a little bit of an introvert and he's also, when he's on set, cause I worked about 2 weeks.
It's a job.
And he's constantly thinking about it and it's just, and I think that maybe comes off as distracted or whatever it is, but he's going through everything. And
then he has a dry humor, which I love.
It's a very dry sense of humor. Yeah.
And so,
but that's lovely. That must've meant a lot to him.
But it meant something to me that I don't know. It was a cool. Well,
you connected with him. And I think I've been doing this for a long time and there are cool moments that I've had where I've worked with, and by the way, Roger Deakins was one of them.
Yes.
Where I've worked with someone who's so good and I was able to basically just let them know how much I appreciate their work. And Laura Linney was one of them. I mean, to be perfectly honest, and I hope Jason Bateman doesn't find out about this because then it'll be another sort of Tiger Beat situation. But when Ari called me for the show, it was COVID and it was Atlanta, and there were like so many reasons I didn't want to do it. And honestly, one of the things that put it over the top was I was just such a fan of Laura's work. I thought, when am I going to get the chance to work with Laura Linney again?
So is my husband. That's so funny too. My husband was like, Laura Linney.
She's fantastic, and for the record, so is Jason, and I enjoyed working with him as well. I just didn't know it at the time, but always completely thankful to her for pushing that over the top, because otherwise I never would have had that experience. Such a great opportunity. So is this? Are you continuing to do stand-in work, or are you going to move on to your next?
Stop! I know. I just, we have one shot to go around, and I kind of want to just kind of grab at everything and experience as much as I possibly can.
Well, you're kind of a Renaissance woman, to be perfectly honest, of all the things you've told me that you've done. And, then I'll be like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to reglaze the bathtub, and then I'm going to learn how to blow glass in the backyard, and then I'm building a pizza oven. What are you doing? And I'm like, well, I was going to do my laundry, I guess. But,
stop! It's not that bad.
It is that
bad. But I was helping John redo his school bus, which he's off and about now. And
wait, tell everybody what this is. Come on.
So during COVID, my son was 19 at the time and attending Villanova, and when they sent him home from college, he said he'd been looking for a long time, but he said, Mom, Dad, now I'm going to pull the trigger and go buy a school bus. So I'm thinking a short bus, little bus, not a big deal. He goes to Jacksonville, Florida, to a school district, finds a bus that's being retired, and it's 36 and a half feet long.
Sure.
Drives it home, and it takes 500 hours because it has a governor on it, so it can't go more than 50 miles an hour, and he didn't know that.
That's awesome.
So he's 17 hours to get home, which should have taken like 8. Yeah. And people screaming and yelling and traffic and everything. And he gets home, and then he's immediately overwhelmed, and then starts taking it apart. And then we ended up over 3.5 years, mostly John, gutting the school bus and turning it into an RV to travel across the country. So while I was filming Ozark, there was so much going on in my personal life. Besides the school bus, I had kids graduating from high school and going into colleges and moving to Boston and moving to Philly and acquiring dogs along the way and fundraising for things. And, so I have my normal mom life and then my Ozark life. So, but I still, I loved it, and I would love to still, I thought I was going to retire from doing this, but then I really miss it after, with COVID, I stood in for 17 characters this past season.
Because they cut down on the number of people or whatever.
Yes. Wow. And so it was for me personally, it was just a lot. It was a lot to learn. It was a lot of people to be, a lot to do. And so I thought, no, I can't do this anymore. And then I really wanted to enjoy my kids while they were still here, because that time is fleeting as well.
Sure.
And now I miss doing it. I've got a whole bunch of home projects I need to catch up on, but I miss being on sets and the activity and everything that's around that. So I hope
there's more in the future for that.
Yeah, maybe Cheryl will have her own show. Because I was Cheryl on Ozark for my 1 or 2 lines, and maybe it'll be a spin-off into Cheryl's place.
I could see that. I mean, let's just put it this way. I think there's a lot to be learned about that character. That a lot came through in those 2 lines, but there's more to that story. So
she's deep.
maybe we'll call Laura and see if she'll executive produce the Cheryl story, and go from there. But if John is okay with it, I'll put his Instagram link in the podcast portion of the website, because
that's hilarious.
How long is it? What's he taking? 18 months to drive around the country?
It'll probably be 18 months now, because he got a job in Vail, and he's going to work out there with his girlfriend Josie and his best friend Jack for 3 months. So,
but they're trying to see all the national parks. Is that what they're trying to do?
Yes, he is going to every single national park in the country, and he's already experienced some cool stuff and a bus breakdown and some drama. But he knew it would be part of it.
That's fantastic.
But he's going to have some great stories. And I wish I had done that kind of thing as a young person. So I'm
Well,
excited for
he
him.
sounds like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
He sounds like an interesting guy who's already starting to have an interesting life.
And my daughter, Kara, also, she just started nursing school and changed trajectory of what she wants to do. So I know. And some of that is my fault. But
Could be worse.
I'm very grateful to have a pair of interesting kids. Our dinners are never boring. Never.
I can imagine. I can absolutely imagine. Not to mention filled with pie and cookies, probably.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier that I want to talk about specifically for younger actors. Is how camera operators interact with stand-ins. And one of the things that I know I will do is, let's say, someone's in the bathroom and doesn't come in, and I'll just go, hey, can you just jump on that person's mark for me? I mean, is that considered something that shouldn't be done?
No, that's great. I mean, and we in Christina and I fundamentally believe in working as a team. If someone had to go to the bathroom and they can't be there, you have to be available to step in. Turn off your mic when you go on the bathroom, if you're mic'd up, by the way, because we all hear it. But anyway, exactly it just brought up a valid point, because I've heard too many things going on.
It's a very good thing. But then the other question that I have, and I've never had a problem with this, but I always feel weird about it, is I sometimes will go step a little bit to your left, turn to your side, and whatever. And because of me, I can't quite get them to get the angle, like if we have to adjust where an actor's standing. And sometimes I'll go over and go, do you mind if I just move your shoulders a little bit? And I always ask, but is that considered an acceptable thing to do, as opposed to you micro moving and whatnot?
I'm absolutely fine with that. Like I remember, and I'm also the person in my head, like, screaming about what everyone's done on the set and that they touch my shoulders, and I'm excited inside my head. So, because it's just, you've worked with great people, and I think that's cool, but that's acceptable. And like Alex Sakharov, at one point, I kept
Director on Ozark.
I kept moving, and also did Game of Thrones and House of Cards. And again, huge. Here we go. I'm in my head. He actually came over to me. I kept getting the choreography wrong. Sometimes I directionally reverse things, and I do the opposite of what I'm looking at right in front of me, and I can't help it. It's how my brain is. So he said, Leah, like, when she's pacing, she does it. And he's like, we're going to walk together. And he put me arm in arm. And I said, okay. I could see this. And he's like, you will walk like this. And so we went back and forth, and he said, do you see how? And I said, I see how to do it. Thank you so much for helping me. So I appreciate the assist.
Gotcha.
I think in this climate, not everyone is as easygoing, so the asking thing is important.
No matter what, even if it was you, I would say, and I know you well, I would say, hey, Leah, do you mind if I just turn? And you would say no, but I would always ask, because of it's very interesting. I'm on a show right now with, I think, a completely African-American cast. I'm trying to think if there's I mean, at least so far, it's been a completely African-American cast. And so, and we have stand-ins, but first of all, I've finally learned most of the stand-ins' names. It takes me forever, no matter what. And I always do what I do with you, with just like, hi, I'm Dave. What's your name, Leah? Okay, I just want to let you know that I'm going to forget that in 4 minutes, and it's not. And I always say the same thing, and it's true. And I go, because I forget my kids' names, and I've known them all their lives. So please don't take it personally. But so I finally got to the point where I've got everybody's names. But now what we do, and I haven't had this experience before. This is new to me. Is each one of them is standing in for, the character they stand in for, and of course they do. But then when we have day players, for lighting reasons, because African-American people, some people are darker and some people are lighter in different shades, we'll change people, and we'll go, okay, so she's now standing in for him, and he's now standing in for her. So it's not even always the same gender. So people are all over the place, and I still know their names, obviously, but I can never figure out who I'm looking at as opposed to the scene, because there's a man sitting in a woman's face. So it's, but it is interesting in that situation where
that's tough.
I hadn't dealt with this before, but clearly they recognize that sometimes they'll be asked to stand in for someone else simply because the lighting is different for them. And, and it makes sense and everybody understands it, but it was just, that was like, all right, here's something new I've learned. And I think part of that is, I've been doing this 35 years, and you're always learning something, and that's sort of what I like about the business is you're always picking
Yes.
something up.
Well, and it's always moving. It's just you never know day to day exactly what you're going to be doing and how the scene's going to play out,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
what people are going to do, and then you get new act in Ozark. You'd have a lot of new actors coming in and out for different
yeah,
parts, and it was just really cool to see how everyone worked.
yeah.
So,
Have you had to stand in for scenes that involve intimacy?
yes.
Is that what is? I mean, look, obviously, if you're like best friends with the stand-in, it's one thing. But if
Hmm.
it's not someone is that just completely odd, or do you just play mental games to get through that, or what do
Um,
you do?
oh, it's that. mm. Yeah, it's
I think
weird.
your answer right here is
Yeah, there's a level of discomfort with that.
yeah.
And then sometimes, someone will ask you to wear a color cover, and I'll never forget, and this is again the recovering Catholic in me. There was this very sexy lingerie piece to wear in the change up, and it was hot pink, and it was for this woman who was uh, known as a stripper, I guess I could say that. And I remember they're like, put this on and come back out, and you're gonna, stand in for her. And I put it over my turtleneck and jeans. And David Dobkin looked at me and he said, "Is that your color cover?" And I said, "Yes, it is. It's Irish Catholic color cover. This is all you're getting."
That's what you're getting. There you go.
And he started laughing, and he's like, "Oh, okay."
There you go.
So you sometimes in those situations, like, a stand-in is a job to do, and you do what you're told and you listen to everything, but also you can stand up for yourself if you feel like you're in a weird situation. So I
That's
wore
kind of
that
what I
color
was wondering.
cover,
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
was fine, and they were
sure.
fine with it. And we laughed about it later. But yeah, and there were a couple in Ozark. It wasn't that bad. And
No, Ozark didn't have really that
luckily I was
much.
friends
Yeah.
with the stand-in at the time. So we just,
Yep.
would laugh about it and be like, yeah, this is a weird situation to be in, but
Yeah.
what can
Yeah.
you do? And sometimes I would be in that situation, and I would text my husband and be like, "You won't believe what I'm doing right now." And he
Yeah.
would start, and he would like, "Are you really telling me this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to. It's freaking me
Exactly.
out."
No, I hear you. Well, and usually what I'll do is, like, let's say two people are kissing, and I'll just say to the stand-ins, "Hey, can you guys just get close just for a minute, just so we can
Yes.
see it?" And then you can pull back. But as I said, I'm on this show right now, and the two of the main stand-ins, man and a woman, are apparently they've been doing this for 6 years, and they're very good friends inside and
Hmm.
outside. So
Hmm.
like we were doing something the other night where we were high above them, and they're supposed to be in bed, and they're
Hmm.
embracing each other with arms.
Hmm.
They're like cuddling, and they got into bed and jumped right into it. And I said, "Hey, I've got what I need if you guys want." And they were like, "No, we're good. This is comfortable." And like they're just very good friends, so they're just talking with
And
each other. I'm like,
sometimes it's
that's
cold. It's
fantastic.
cold
And
on
yeah,
those
and
sets.
it was cold on the set too, so that might have been part of it. But they sat there the whole time. They're like, "Why would we get up? We're on a bed. We're comfortable." And
Yeah.
and they're just very good friends. So it takes all kinds. There's no question that it's an odd part of the business, but like I said, that's why I think it's and I've often said to people who sort of poo-poo it, I'm like, "You go in and try it." I
Yeah.
don't think I could not stand still for 20 minutes and look at someone, 2 feet
Hmm.
away and not move if that's what it required.
Hmm.
And you go there. But a lot of what you must do when you start a show is intensely reading the room to figure out who people are and what they need and whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then you get to work with someone like Jared, who is our boom operator, who
Oh, I
will
love Jared.
instantly make you feel comfortable because
Yep.
he's so funny. So
Yep.
funny.
I
So, and I look for those types of people too, because I was like, okay, who can I lock in on who seems like they know everybody, but they're professional, but they're funny. And
yeah.
then, but I read the room a lot, and I hang back a lot. Like the 5th year we were into Ozark with COVID and everything, I was more myself than I'd ever been because
Huh.
I'd been doing it so long for the show.
And you
When I
knew all the
walk into a
people. Yeah.
show, I'm an introvert. I'm quiet. I don't rock the boat. I don't make jokes. I know it's hard
I
to
don't know
believe.
who that is, but
but
okay. Yeah.
but no, I
Yeah.
truly truly do that because you don't know who you're working with, and you don't know
Yeah.
if there's going to be a director who is dramatic or unhappy or
Yeah.
is going through a tough time. That's another thing. Everyone's a person. So yes, this director is like really upset and volatile for some reason, but sometimes I've sat back and I've said, what happened earlier in the day? Was there
Yeah.
something that, and I try to put myself in that mindset that something probably happened earlier in the day that's causing this incredible amount of frustration.
Yep.
And you just need to remember they're probably dealing with something else. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of put myself in that mindset, and then you can get through having a thick skin and having a good
Mm-hmm.
day,
Mm-hmm.
because not everyone's going to have a perfect day and people are
Yeah.
going to get frustrated.
Yeah.
And your
Yeah. No,
family,
that's.
you're working together all the time. So you start to kind of treat each other like family
Yeah, and you
sometimes.
don't know what's going on at home, and you don't know whatever. I mean, there's so much to it. So yeah, I try to give people. I don't know that I always do, but I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, because I'm sure I have days which are the same kind of thing. You're just human, right?
Yeah.
And you do
Yeah,
what you do.
exactly. And again,
Yeah.
it's not a world war you're doing. You are shooting a film, and it's
Yeah.
just like perspective sometimes too.
Yeah.
Because, and I always try to put myself in other people's shoes, because everybody I meet, I moved my whole life. I went to 8 different schools, K through 12. Every
Jeez.
person I've run into has a story
Yeah.
and has an experience. So,
No question.
and no two experiences are the same. And you just need to accept that other people have, stuff in their closet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, Leah, this was fantastic. I so appreciate this. There was so much great information in this, and well, you're fascinating. I knew that. I'm gonna leave you with the question that I leave everybody with, and let you sort of take us out. Well, I'm not going to say you talked to yourself 20 years ago, because you would have been doing something entirely different probably. But someone who's getting into the business, an operator who's starting in the business, what secrets do you have for how to succeed in this crazy business that we work in?
I really, really thought about that actually. And something that that strikes me as an interesting time right now with young people. You are not going to make it out of the gate. It takes hard work. It takes perseverance. It takes really good relationship management skills. I don't text people to get a job. I talk to people on the phone. I interact with people. I pass along my name and number. On one of the sets, someone came in as a guest camera person, like camera C, I think, to help us out with a big scene on the Missouri Belle, and said, you should come and work on Yellowstone sometime and stand in for the actress. And I said, oh wow, that would be really cool. I don't know if I could be that far away, but what a cool opportunity. Do you have your name and number? Sure. And we interacted and I talked about my experience. You have to talk to people. I see young people sitting next to each other texting on a couch. Doesn't happen in our house because, I used to take phones away so that we would all interact with each other. But really, you're going to have hard times. You're not going to get paid for something. You're going to, as a camera operator, especially, you need to establish a reputation. You need to build on that. You need to take the job that's free for a student film, because while you may say, I know all of this stuff about camera operating, it will teach you something. And maybe you can teach them something, and you can help them as well. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship when you take the hard, that seems like an easy job, but it's harder on you because you're not getting paid that much for it. And then build that relationship over time. Commit to the job. If you, I mean, me talk about commitment with all the jobs I've done, but whenever I've done it, I am 100% focused on what I'm doing at the time. If you want to be a camera operator and you want to make it in this business, it is not going to be texting someone or shooting a resume with just an email. You need to call on the phone and say, hey, I may not be qualified for this job, but I'd love to be on that set just to watch what the camera operators do. Shadow
Hmm.
people who know more than you. Listen to people who know more than you. There could be a 22-year-old who knows more than me, I do listen to what they say. There could be a 72-year-old guy who knows more than me, and I listen to them too, because you never know what information you can gain from other people. So the longer I live, the more I know nothing, the more but really, I'm learning something every single day. And it's about learning and working and building blocks. You are stepping up the ladder slowly, and it may be 10 years of stepping up that ladder, but no one who skips those steps ever really has success. If I think I know more than you and I'm just going to jump 10 steps, I get there and I'm in over my head because I didn't learn any lessons along the way. You're not going to be making $100,000 the first time you do something. But you know what? If you start slow and you build and you do a good job, you'll be recommended for the next job. I mean, I got to say, in my personal experience, Hollywood has not been for me about social media or what I put on Facebook or it's been who I have talked to, who I have networked with, and who has seen me do a good or a bad job. I don't know what everyone thinks of me, but if I did a good job, I will get a phone call, and it may not be from someone I know, but they knew me 4 movies ago and they remembered for some reason. So really, really think about what you're doing and take everything that comes to you when you're new, because you need to. I mean, and then you build your resume and you have experience. So that's my personal opinion.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.